Hey guys, it's the Disco Spider, and as a kid, I loved the Captain Underpants books. They were definitely one of my favorite books to read when I was younger. I did collect the first 8 of the series, the ones that came out until 2006, where the series would take a long hiatus and return 6 years later and ultimately end in 2015 with its 12th and final book. But more than a decade after and I presume a lot of kids stopped reading the Captain Underpants books, Dreamworks decided to release a full-length feature film of the book. Now, this is not the first time that Dreamworks has adapted a book into a full-on animated film. Dreamworks is pretty known for doing that, such as How to Train Your Dragon, Home, and even Shrek, their biggest film they've ever made, was adapted from a book, and even their latest film, The Boss Baby, is another case of this. But after so long without a good Dreamworks film, can Captain Underpants sustain the fun quality that the book series had, or will this movie be another messy Dreamworks film? The film is about two average kids, George and Harold, who, because of getting caught by their mean old principal, Mr. Crup, for pulling a prank in school, hypnotizes Mr. Crup before sending both of them to different classes. Now the boys must stop Mr. Crup, who is hypnotized as Captain Underpants, George and Harold's own most popular comic book character, before he ends up in trouble. At the same time, a villain with a terrible name who enrolls into George and Harold's school as the new science teacher comes up with a plot to get rid of laughter once and for all. To be very frank with you guys, there isn't much plot-wise. Yeah, you can say the subplot with Professor Poopy Pants is a coherent story, but that's not really the main focus of the film. They cut to it several times, and it is pretty effective for setting up the end scene, but when you finally get to the payoff, there isn't really much. George and Harold defeat the giant toilet with laughter, and then they get the machine to shrink Poopy Pants, and then bam, end of story. The climax felt like a letdown, seeming cool at first, but nothing much in the end result. But as for the main plot, all it is just Captain Underpants having random shenanigans with the real world. Something like Sponge Out of Water, a movie like that. This plot has no weight to it at all, since, like I said, nothing really happens. But even if this movie offers nothing story-wise, this is definitely a film that is a prime example of style over substance. This movie has so many fun sequences that are just so bizarre and entertaining, like a bunch of scenes that are in 2D and are in comic format, a live-action puppet scene, a really cool scene with George and Harold being on separate islands, which emphasizes the separation between their friendship, and, of course, Flipperama. This movie is non-stop fun with its fast-paced comedy and fun style. Even if this film doesn't offer anything, you will at least still have fun with it. And as for the comedy, the one thing I was scared for about this movie was the comedy. I was scared that it was going to be filled with toilet humor, jokes that people would think kids would love, yet annoys anyone else who wants to actually see a good movie. But this movie actually has restraint on that. There's only 2 instances in particular. First was when everyone made fun of Poopy Pants for having a funny name, which goes with the plot so it makes sense and is needed. And second is the scene where the school has an orchestra of whoopee cushions. Besides those, there weren't much toilet humor in the film, but instead had other forms of jokes, not all of which were funny, but it still offered a variety of jokes nonetheless. Then we have the animation. Holy crap, I am starting to become very impressed with the animation in animated films this year. Yeah, none of the animated films this year haven't really been a hit, but holy, the animation on most of them are spectacular, especially in Captain Underpants. The character designs look amazing, although in CGI, it still looks an awful lot like the characters from the book, keeping the same style and having some 2D expressions. And the weirdest part of all of this is that this movie was made in Canada for $38 million. This is a really cheap movie if you come to think about it, yet it is one of the best looking animated films, in my opinion. A movie very similar, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, that tries to have that cartoony style and movement, but ends up looking really fucking ugly and unappealing, was made from a budget of $100 million. Even if you may not end up liking this film, the one thing to take away from it is that the animators did a fantastic job. Then we have the characters. Because there's not really a plot, these characters don't really have much in this film. No character development or anything, just characters going through random danger. First we have George and Harold, the main characters. I gotta say, even if they don't have any sort of character development, I still do love these characters. They remind me so much of me as a kid, and kids in general. Their hyper-imagination and a way to have fun no matter what just reminds me of a regular kid. And in fact, everyone in this movie, or all the kids at least, acts like actual kids, which I thought was pretty fun. Plus, I love how they made a big deal of them going to separate classes, since as a kid this does seem like a friendship breaker. And then we have Mr. Crup / Captain Underpants. They're fun. I did like Captain Underpants' rush of hyperness, him trying to blend in with humans, but other than that, there wasn't really much to say about the character. I did love Ed Helms' performance, and seeing Captain Underpants all fully animated was really cool to see. And then lastly, we have Professor Poopy Pants. Poopy Pants is probably my least favorite character. He feels too silly. Now, I know this may sound weird coming from a movie about a full-grown superhero and his underwear, but if Poopy Pants had posed more of a threat in this film, it would have made the climax so much more intense. Like I said before, I didn't really feel much for the ending. It was fun, but had no weight to it. But if Poopy Pants was a little bit more threatening, it would have made the film at least a little better. The performance Nick Kroll gives is a rather good one, and Poopy Pants is a funny character overall. Yeah, these characters may not be the most interesting or memorable, but they are still fun. And then lastly, I want to talk about how this movie stands as an adaptation, coming from someone who grew up and loved the original source material. As an adaptation, it's amazing. It stays true to the books, not adding any sort of drama or mushy character development scenes that the original books would refuse to have, although it would have been a better movie if stuff like that were included. The books were about a fun, silly superhero defeating odd villains in fun and relatable situations, and that's what this movie also offers. It may not be 100% true, changing a lot of things for the story to work as a 90-minute feature film, but even with the changes it's made, any Captain Underpants fan will easily have a fun time with this movie, just like they did with the original book series as a kid. And with that, that's really how I feel about this movie. It's fun. It may not offer an actual plot or memorable characters, but what it can offer is a true fun movie that will make you feel like a kid again. This is a good change of pace for animated films. It's a fun and creative movie that offers style over substance. It helps stand out from the other monotonous animated films that we've been getting recently, since it is a very unique one. If you were a fan of Captain Underpants as a kid, then you'll definitely have fun with this film. But if not, then this may not be the movie for you. I'd recommend watching How to Train Your Dragon if you really want to watch a Dreamworks book adaptation movie. But what are your thoughts on Captain Underpants? Are you like me and liked it, or did you in fact hate it? Or are you in the middle? Let me know in the comments your thoughts and opinions on Captain Underpants, and I do try to respond to all the comments I get. And please like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more cartoon-related reviews. But anyways, I'm the Disco Spider, and peace out.